are you? How's it going?
I am doing really well.
Good.
I'm sitting in the dining room of my new home that my partner and I just bought not too long ago. So lots
How'd
of.
you manage that? Like the price of lumber is like $4,000 a pound.
Well, no, you're totally right. I mean, we found probably the cheapest house on the market.
Awesome.
I mean that maybe in the whole state of Minnesota, because we started out looking at, houses in a certain price range, and then our expectations we kept having to shift our expectations for what we were going to get. But anyway, it's a lovely little home that, kind of feels like a cabin in the city, as you can tell by the wood panels.
I love it. I love that vibe. It's amazing. Well, congrats. That's like, I mean, I feel like we're opening it up, and you get to settle in on that new adventure. I feel like I'm not gonna lie, I kind of feel like I'm talking to someone who has summited Mount Everest a little bit, because I am about to just start playing shows again. And you've already played a show in front of like real people. Like I feel like, is the summit far? Do we have enough oxygen to keep going? What's it like up there?
It is super fun. And we did I don't know about yourself, but we did a few gigs last year, maybe 3 of them. They were all outdoors, and they all felt okay.
Yeah.
Just because it was still so early on, we didn't know a lot about the coronavirus. It felt safe because it was outdoors, but it still felt kind of premature. So the last show that we just played, which was May 8th at the Hook and Ladder, felt awesome, because it just felt like people were settled, were ready to kind of re-enter society in a way. They at the Hook and Ladder have a really nice setup that still feels really safe. It's all outdoors.
Yeah.
People
they do a good job at the Hook. They really do.
So and they've done a great job this entire pandemic, just switching to the live stream platform and employing musicians that way. So it's great. When's your first live gig?
So I didn't perform at all. I did live streams, but that's not the same thing. So my first like in-person gig is this weekend. When they lifted the mask restrictions, my friends in Winona were like, "Hey, we don't have masks. Do you want to do a gig?" So I'm doing this weekend at Ed's.
Awesome.
Which is like awesome, because that is one of my favorite places in the universe to play. But at the same time, I'm just like, I don't know. Maybe it's because I watched Bo Burnham's special last night. So part of me is just like, what's the point of all of this, really? Should I be doing this? Like, should any of us be doing this? Like,
I know. That there is that feeling. I do think, though, that you will be providing people, and that we do provide people as entertainers, as artists, and as people. We offer people a lot of things: a place to feel, a place to celebrate, a place to grieve. So I think there's use for us.
There is use. Well, there's also something I think I learned in the last year through various sources, and I feel like I'm still learning this lesson. I feel like we all are. Gathering is important. Like gathering in community and having a safe space for the entire community to like kind of get together and blow off steam is supremely important. And I think these spaces definitely offer that. I don't think I'm alone in saying these kinds of things are like a bit like a church, not to get weird in the morning, but I do think there is some truth to that, especially for the folk who don't feel like they have a church. Like you need some sort of surrogate. And I don't know. So I don't know like where you used to play on the road, but before this, like I would play a good mix of Trump towns and like liberal towns, and the only thing that like 100% brings everybody together is music, or at least in my 33 years of existence, that's the only thing I've found that like can kind of get everybody in some sort of agreement, in some sort of the Venn diagram gets closer, when music's playing. I'll say that.
Yeah, I think that's so true of music and of any art form. I mean, I think if we are talking about how do we bridge gaps between people who have different beliefs, art is probably the best way to do it, and music especially, because more so than any other type of art form, live music, I think, has a
Yes.
really uh, strong way of transforming people in the moment,
Right.
or it can. So I'm with you on that.
I think the one addendum I have in the pandemic, I think the only other thing that beats music is food.
Absolutely. And then you have music and food, and it's
Yes.
the best
I, I
part.
feel I feel like that's where I've been like kind of scheduling my tour dates is just like what breweries serve food? Oh, that looks nice.
Yeah, that's cool.
We're like, all right, okay, that sounds interesting. But yeah, I definitely feel psyched that it's happening, but it's also I don't know, like they're not to bring back the mountain climbing analogy, like it does feel like you're taking some sort of a risk of like there's part of it where you're just like, well, of course we're getting back on the stage because it's up there and it's there and that's what it's for. It's like, you know, the spectators and performers need it for different reasons, but they definitely need it just as much as the other does. But it feels like you're kind of performing a stunt. It's just like we might not come back.
I know, and there's already so much risk involved with performing in the first place, just that it's really vulnerable, and then to add that added layer on. But you know, the nice thing about it is that people have the choice of whether or not they want to show up or not. And so you're all kind of taking that risk together, and kind of to your point of like communal gathering is so important for our health and for our well-being as humans, because that's kind of how we are wired, is to be connected with one another. Like,
yes,
in some ways, yeah, that sort of gathering is necessary for people to heal. And you know, if the statistics are correct about how many people are vaccinated in the Twin Cities anyway, I feel safer than I would have a year ago, you know, doing this.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely got the dose of Dolly's medicine. Waited the incubation period. I'm also despite my reputation, I'm pretty much I toe the line. I'm a habitual rule follower. Like I was denying gigs until June. I just it was just like for me like and part of that was just like, well, I gotta wait 2 weeks. I gotta wait 2 weeks before I say yes to something. You know, so like I did that. But also there was a part of me that just working in events for the better part of a decade and a half, I know, unfortunately, no matter how big of a sign you make, people won't read it. So there's also like me kind of waiting. We're like, all right, it's like going to Mars. Like I'm gonna wait until missions come back before I think about even participating on that. So like there was definitely a little bit of just like, well, let's see how this goes. Like, is there going to be, I mean, like, shows have been kind of happening for a month. We haven't really seen a significant spike in cases, or at least not in this state. I mean, I don't know. But I also, this is all above my pay grade. At this point, you know, like, people are going to do what they're going to do anyway.
Yeah, I mean, we've known that since the very beginning. Yeah.
Okay, so after this tune fades out, we're gonna have one more tune, and then we're gonna be on both all of our social media channels, but the radio. So I want to talk about the residency. I want to talk about the new record, of course. But is there anything else you want to mention while we have two different audiences? Because we can just talk about that and I can make sure I bring it up. Obviously, it's pretty free form around here. It's like, but when we're on the radio, it's you know, a little bit different than this kind of like I don't know. This portion feels like this weird like hybrid between a podcast and like a 90s public access TV show. Like when it's just the online only.
Yeah.
The only thing we got to be mindful is I try not to curse during these portions just because I don't want my brain to get comfortable and like forget which port I'm on, but we definitely can't curse after this song. not that we were. That is the only thing. And then other than that, I know you got a jet soon. Feel free to stay as long as you like. I actually never expect people to stay the full 2 hours. That is a lot of like straight up talking. Usually, so if you got something to run off to, feel free to do that. I just want to make sure we get the important who, what, wheres, and whys, just because, hey, we have a platform. Let's use it. So yeah. Did I miss anything? Residency starts like tomorrow, right?
Yeah, yeah. And that's the same date that we are releasing our album. So
perfect. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I think like the album release and the residency are those are like the main things. So
perfect. Okay. All right. Well, let's make sure we get that. I'm just going to type in the metadata to this tune. Watching digital paint dry, the thrill of how radio sausage is made. Okay. All right. So one of the things I wanted to know before I asked you was this a pandemic record where you were trying to figure out how to record and finish it amongst the pandemic socially distant, or did you actually finish this record and then have to like kind of park on it or make the decision to park on it to release it later? Because I've just been impressed is like an understatement how much this community has been creating. So I've been like hella curious on like how bands have been making records, because like solo artists, sure, you can lock yourself in a room, but like this record, I feel like the band went into like new genre territories as well. So it's just like you kind of have to have a meeting of the minds. Were you all like kind of in each other's pods during this, or?
We were not at all. So we finished this album we recorded it in September of 2019.
Whoa, okay.
We were going to release it in around this time last year. And yeah, so we parked it. And because we just really feel like playing live is going to be the best way for us to get the record some interest. But what we did do is we went back into the studio around this time last year.
Whoa.
And we kind of all like did the thing we needed to do before getting all together. We stayed masked the whole time. Luckily, we recorded at the Terrarium, and it's a pretty large space, so we were able to stay distanced. And we re-recorded one of the songs, and then we recorded 2 new songs, and we took 2 of the songs that were going to be on it off. So we did some editing that way. And that was nice because it just felt like we could take our time with the release and we could make it better than what we would have initially given to people. So yeah, but otherwise we really didn't start. We had a couple gigs last year and we would just practice outside.
Okay.
Otherwise we weren't getting together, or we weren't doing anything as a band until recently. We just got a new practice space, and so now we've been getting together and getting ready for this residency. But
yeah,
it was a long year of not doing it, and honestly, it was kind of a nice break for me personally. But I think for everybody in the band, like, it's sort of just our bass player Paul kind of put it in the best way. He's like, I just really got into cooking and meditating. And I kind of just did that for a year, and now And now we're playing gigs again, and it feels like we kind of just picking up where we left off, and it doesn't really feel like that much time has passed, or that we've missed out on anything. So
stand by. So you just heard Chuck Prophet, Summertime Thing, Deborah by Beck, Rolling Stones, Miss You at the top. And I'm really sorry to cut you off there, Megan, because that was a really good point that we were talking about. See, here's the thing on Desert Islands. Every time I have a guest, we do this simultaneous video segment, and I know a lot of you like to play at home. Please don't do it when you're driving. But if you're just tuning in, I have Megan from Kiss the Tiger, and we were talking about how to prepare for not just gigs coming back, but you have an entire residency of gigs coming back at the Ice House starting tomorrow. And so you just got a new practice space. And so how have these rehearsals been going? Do you socially distance, or did you just kind of be like, all right, I'm sure it's fine? Like, and because this is a lot of material every week at every Thursday. Is there 5 Thursdays this month? That's a lot of Thursdays. Or
there's only 4, and we are actually doing 1 Friday. So it's 3 Thursdays and 1 Friday because the Ice House booked out a private event on one of the Thursdays. So it's a little confusing, but 4 dates, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so this is to celebrate the release of your new record. So you had it recorded, parts of this were recorded in like 2019, and then you added stuff, and we were doing some editing that you had to do some finagling for last year. So this is finally ready to come out. And we're going to play a cut of this. I don't know if you're going to be around, but we're going to play a cut of this record later in the show. But let's talk about this residency, and let's talk about this album. Where is this album going to be? Is it going to be available on all streaming platforms? Are you going to do Bandcamp only? If people like what they hear, where can they hear it again?
Sure. It'll be pretty much anywhere you find music nowadays. So it will be on Bandcamp, and then it will also be on all of the major streaming platforms: Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, Deezer, Amazon Music. I don't know, the list goes on. I don't know the other ones after that, but and then it's also available on vinyl and CD. You can get physical copies of it as well.
How'd you get vinyl? Did you just order it right before the chaos happened? Because all my friends trying to get vinyl are like, yeah, we have to wait. I don't know when it's going to be done.
Yeah, I made sure, because the last record we released on vinyl, I pushed it to the last minute, and then there was a big snowstorm, so our records were supposed to arrive the day of, but then they got stuck in Chicago, I think it was. So we didn't even have them at our release show. So this time I was like, we didn't even have the shows planned. I was like, I'm just going to order it. We're going to have them in our hand before we even make any decisions, which, you learn something new every time you release an album, how to do it better the next time. So yeah, we did it through Noiseland Industries, which they're based
right on
in the Northeast, and I think a lot of people do their vinyl production there. And yeah, they said that they're the busiest they've ever been, and I'm sure they are continuing to be very busy.
I can't even imagine between the backlog of projects that were supposed to come out, and now that everything is starting to kind of open up and more places are taking more different types of events, I can only imagine how many artists of all different disciplines are like podcasters are releasing vinyl nowadays. Like it's just like, so it's I can't imagine what the backlog is like for that. But so streaming services, and that'll be available on your website, yeah?
Correct, yeah. So kissthetiger.com is where you can find all of the physical merchandise and the physical CD and vinyl for Vicious Kid, our new record. Yeah.
Well, congrats on releasing Vicious Kid. That comes out tomorrow or this Friday?
Tomorrow, yeah. We're doing it the unconventional National Street date on a Thursday, not a Friday. So we wanted it to be with our show.
Yeah, time is an illusion. Only Vicious Kid is real. Don't worry about that. Okay, well, so speaking of time, I know you're short on it, so let's talk about this residency. Who you got playing week after week? Who's playing this week? Because this is quite the bill. There's a lot of great artists.
Yeah.
So who's with you tomorrow, and who's with you all month?
Yeah, tomorrow we have Maida playing as a duo with her bass player Miho. So it's Maida and Miho. I'm sure most listeners know who Maida is, but if you don't, she's a freaking funky lady. Yeah.
She's a powerhouse.
She is a powerhouse.
Fine-sized powerhouse. She's amazing.
Yes. So Maida and Miho tomorrow, and then the following Thursday we have Taba playing also as a duo. I think.
Oh, they're good. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've mentioned this before, but Cecilia, my friend and I in college used to follow around and fangirl her when she played in this other group called Chance and Seas, because we were just obsessed with her voice. I just think she has one of the best voices.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So Taba will be with us on June 10th, and then the Friday that we're doing, we have Technic.
Nice.
No Technic as Davida Dawn, but I think that she's going by Technic now, or it might be a separate project. I'm actually not sure, but Technic. So it'll be a house electronic hardware set, very different from the other acts. And then the last night, which is the Thursday, the 24th, we have Thomasina Petrus, and she is an amazing vocalist. She's probably most well known for her Lady Day, Billie Holiday show that she does. So she has studied and knows Billie Holiday's voice so well, but has her own unique interpretation of that music and does other stuff as well. So yeah, it'll be a really diverse smattering of musical genres and people, and we're super excited about the lineup that we have supporting us over the month.
I think you should be. I love where you took the direction of this record. You definitely have the rockers, but you've like also grown into like soulful country areas too. I feel, and also I feel like you've hit like every show you can in town. So like I don't want to ask you the same questions, but please check out Vicious Kid, and thank you for coming back on Desert Islands. I really appreciate it, especially in the weird times of like, oh, we got to do it by video. So because this isn't your first time on the show, I kind of made a mega mix of the old top 10 list and the new top 10 list. And I'm a bit of a talker, so we won't have time to get to all of it. But since you're playing all month, it'll just be an extended playlist. I will share it below this video after the show, and you can check out what's up on, well, what you missed and what we didn't have time for, and what is going to come up next. So Megan, thank you so much for coming back on Desert Islands. Before we get going here, is there anything you'd like the listeners to know before we got to sign off?
Ooh, I don't know. I guess I'm just really excited about our album, and I want to promote it and say listen to it and purchase it. Streaming is kind of the way now to do things, but I think buying physical copies of stuff, or even just paying for the digital version of it, is really helpful for artists. And I think it'll be worth your while because it's a very diverse sonic-wise album. Like it just kind of runs the gamut of sound, and it's all they're big feeling songs. I keep saying but I do really feel that way. I think they're all songs that are like the songs that come out when you're really on the edge or on the verge. And I think that is appropriate for this whole year that we've been living through, year plus, that they're kind of songs that meet that moment in a way, even though they weren't written in the past year. So yeah, any listens, any purchases, we really appreciate it all, and we just mostly hope that people enjoy it as much as we do.
Absolutely. If you're just tuning in, I'm talking with Megan from Kiss the Tiger. Check out the new album, Vicious Kid. Cathartic is the way I put it when I first heard some of the singles, where it's like, yes, this is the energy I need for the summer. So we're going to hear a track from that new record closer to the top of the hour. But first, let's get back to the mixtape. Here's some Cowboy Junkies here on KFAI. Okay, can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, I have no idea how long you can stay. Feel free to stay as long as you want, or to jet whenever you can. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. It's exciting. I feel like I love what everyone is like. Like, just I discovered the video first. So who made the first video? I don't want to butcher the song. It's not Hey, I Miss You. Sorry.
Oh, it's just that's okay. That's Sarah Morris's show. That's Sarah Morris. But it's just called I Miss You.
I Miss You. Yes. Yeah. Who made this video? Was the
It was my friend that I went to college with at the University of Minnesota, and we both went to acting school, but she's also a really talented visual artist, and she had done a little bit of illustration, but had not done as long of a video as the one she did for us. And I kind of pitched this thing to her with a really short timeline. I'm like, can you make this video in 1 month? Because that's when we want to release it. And she's like, I talked to my illustrator friends, and they said that they usually get 6 months lead time before.
That's amazing,
though. This is crazy. Just let me know. I'm flexible. But she totally hammered it out, and I think it's really beautiful, and it's very simple, which I like. I don't think. I almost am glad that I gave her a small window of time, because she was able to deliver something really simple but beautiful. Whereas if she had more time, it would have gotten more complicated, and I don't necessarily think that would have met the song. So,
right, I found it really fitting, and like I also firmly believe like context like shapes content, and I like appreciated the fact that it was a little bit more simpler, because it just felt the song, but it also felt like the entire year and a half before the song. Like, I just found it so fitting that it was a good pairing with the music and the animation. It's just like I don't know. I love animated videos. Like,
I do too.
They're really cute, and I get excited when people do them, and I'm glad people still make them, because I mean, I don't know. Music videos are weird anyway. Like, I don't know how I feel about like appearing in my own, if that makes sense. So like I always love animation, and so like you had a month. I know nothing about animation. How do you pull off something in a month? Like, do you like?
Well, I think she just worked her butt off. We had pitched the idea to her, just the general concept of like a bird, flying the coop,
Yes,
but having them be sort of humanized. What is that called? Anthropomorphized, or whatever that word is.
Yeah.
My vocabulary is not. Yes. So she kind of just took that idea and ran with it, and we would just have check-ins every once in a while, and mostly she would just send me the things that she was working on, and I would say, oh my gosh, I love this. And she was like, oh, I got stuck, so I made a dreamscape, and it gets a little weird. And when I saw the final product, I was like, I love that so much, because it's super surprising. And some people are like, what does it mean? It doesn't make sense. Like, you're the bird, and then what? And I'm like, I don't know. It's up for your interpretation. It doesn't have to make sense.
Right. No, it's part feelings, and I don't know. I also like leaving things in, like, I really appreciate David Lynch for the fact that like he will never talk about the meaning behind his art. Like, he's always just like, so it's just like what was that interview where it's just like, believe it or not, Eraserhead's my most spiritual film, and like the interview is like, elaborate on that. No. Like, I love that. I love that. Like, it's just like, what does it mean? It's like, it doesn't have to mean anything. It means what you make of it. I just remember when I saw that, I was just like, oh, this is really nice. And like, I am really identifying with this bird right now. And I like, that's just kind of how I felt with it. And I don't know. I was stoked when I saw that. It's why I asked you to come back. And one, also, my timeline has been so off where it's just like I try to catch people when they release stuff, but there's a few interviews last year where like I would contact people and be like, hey, when's this coming out? This is great. They're like, thanks, really appreciate it. It came out last April. And I'm like, like so.
That's
But
okay. It's hard to keep track of stuff. And
yeah, you perform.
And I don't believe that there's is sort of this feeling with music that it's like once it releases, that's the most significant time of that song's life, and then a month passes and it's not significant anymore. And I just don't believe in that. I think like if music is good, if songs are good, then they should have long lives, and we can talk about them a year after they've been released and they can still be relevant. But you know, we just live in like a very product driven kind of industry, especially with streaming and just.
I knew we were in trouble when someone had the bright idea of, instead of calling it art, it's content. It's like, and I mean, it's the perfect way to describe it, of just like, oh yeah, someone who's never made it, like, what would they view this as? Content. It's a product. So I get that. Show business. There's no show without the business. But I don't. And I know I'm preaching to the choir here, just because like you are an interdisciplinary artist. Like you also like act and are you prepared to go back to any theatrical roles, or are you just considering like music and film? Like how are you going to pair that in this new age? Like how do you think theater is going to rebound from COVID? It's like I don't even know how we're going to do it, let alone.
Yeah, you know, of course I want theater to. I'll put it this way: there are some theaters locally, especially, that I will work with right away if I have the chance. And those are the smaller theaters whose missions have always been from the very beginning to uplift marginalized voices and to serve underrepresented communities. It's the larger theaters, which, you know, I've had the privilege of being able to work for, that are going through some intense growing pains and having to like really shift the institution and what the institution is built on. And those are the places that I'm not as excited about jumping back into right away, because I know that there's a lot of growth that needs to happen. At the same time, I'm like, well, if I can help be a part of that process and be a voice that's like kind of constantly there saying, okay, how can you do better? How can you do better? Like, I'm happy to play that role. But for the most part, I just feel more drawn to music right now. And of course, we're releasing this album, so it just feels like the most significant thing in my life and what I want to be focusing on.
Absolutely.
But yeah, you know, like every artistic entertainment industry is going to have a really interesting. I don't know. It'll be really interesting to see what the coming years will be like and how places will rebound. I mean, even our venues, venues, you know, like it's so exciting to see all of those show announcements at the Turf Club and the 7th Street Entry, and then it's also just like, oh, I hope that we can sustain this and that we don't put those places in jeopardy again, because there's such big parts of our music community, and that's like where a lot of us play and so
gather and reminisce. And
exactly,
like I didn't realize how much socialization happened, not just playing a show but working a show. You know, like the regulars at the Turf Club, like it becomes like a ritual to be like, oh, I love this band. Like they know the door person, they know the bartender, they come to stage right, they say hi to me. They come to Maddie, they say hi to Maddie. They watch the show. They know the other regulars who go to the thing. Like, just even that was just like, it took the pandemic for me to realize, like, oh, when else do I see those people but working, going, or playing those shows? And I do think there is growing pains as far as what venues need to do. A lot of that is like, how do you stay nimble and just keep the lights on in general? But like, also a lot of that like cuts to the heart and the soul of the economics of how we do this, where it's just like, I can already see people's eyes turn to dollar signs, and then I can also already see organizations going like, especially after what we went through as a community in several facets, kind of going like, well, wait a minute, we've lost so much, and if not everyone can participate, what kind of arts community do we even have?
Yeah, it's a huge question. Well, and you know, I was just talking about theaters, but like music venues as institutions also have a lot of work that they need to do. And
yeah,
obviously the culture around live music has bred some really despicable behavior, and there has been abuse and things that we need to address and acknowledge, and then move forward being better. And a lot of times that type of work is incongruous with making money. Like, they don't always go hand in hand. And a lot of that sometimes has to do with like the funding that can go towards, you know, giving staff members bystander training, or like, you know, there's always money involved, and it always comes at a cost. But I think like prioritizing safety and well-being of people in venues is super important. Not to like super deep dive into that conversation, but just it's just it's so complex. So that and like, aside from the fact that venues have just not been able to function and operate like they normally do in the past year, there's also that added work on top of that. It's like, okay, well, if we're going to come back, how are we going to be better? How are you going to make your space safe? How are you going to make sure that, you know, people aren't being abused in your space? So it's a lot. It's a lot for everybody to carry, but it's necessary. It's good. And I think like we have no excuses now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So do you have time to go back on air, or do you got to run?
I do think I got to run, even though I could hang out the whole time, honestly.
No worries.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for waxing poetic with me and getting philosophical here. Congrats on the release. I'm going to have to jump back on air here, but it was great to see you, and have fun at Ice House. I'm going to try to come to one of these things and yeah, stay safe and good luck.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It's good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. All right. I got like 15 seconds. Thank you so much.
Yep.